box me. Are we doing this at one or whatever? Hey, everybody, come on in. And I mean, just in the amount of time I stepped away to do that meeting until now, this is why I have to time block everything.
Mhm.
I don't know how many missed messages. And I'm like, everybody cannot need something right now. They just can't. So who's in here? Who's coming in? Hey, good afternoon, Toy. So what time did you get up this morning? Because I know we were in talking in our little group. And what was that, 3 a.m. or something? I see you up now. She's Toy is probably like me. You gotta get this. Whatever. If you want a mission to get something done, you just keep going to get it done. I'm like, I'll sleep later. If my brain is focused on this, I got to get it done.
Mhm.
Because if I put it down, I don't know when I'm going to pick it back up. So we're going to go ahead and get going. Because again, if folks are not here, if folks are not here, we know that you guys are going to catch up to it later. So, hey, good afternoon. Afternoon. I know that's Willis over there. So I see about 10 of us are on. So we're going to get going, Karitsa, and folks will jump in. Hey, Keo.
Hello.
And that way we can spend our time in getting to know you because you're a recent member of WIN, Women Investment Network. And we just discovered, guys, that she's not probably over in Be Niched. So we've got to get her over in there because although we're broadcasting over there right now, the folks like Willis and those guys who are not in WIN probably won't know how to connect with you in a second anyway. So I have brought to you guys what I call a person who has figured out their niche. Okay. And when you guys already know, I'm all about niches, which is why the book was written on niches and all those kind of things that um, if I always tell folks, niches bring riches, right? That when you can hone in on a particular niche and that's all you're studying and that's what you're focused on, then you have the time to get better, to dominate it, and most of you already know we talk about and bring on different folks, and I never bring to you guys anybody who I wouldn't personally do business with. So over the course of probably, I don't know, I don't know, Kritza, you came across my timeline for something, and I just kind of watched you do your events and that kind of stuff. And then I do my research on people, even though I don't say much to them. I just like that she was focused on her niche, and that's very important to me. And you guys already know that. So I'm not going to take up any more time, and I'm going to let Kritza tell you guys and introduce herself to you guys so that you guys can get to know her because she wasn't at Teach at the Beach. She hasn't been sharing much in Win or anything like that. So you might have seen her pop into the group, but not really had a chance to get to know her. So, Risa, go ahead and tell us all about what you want us to know at this point.
All right. First, I want to thank you for having me again. It's definitely a pleasure to be here and speak to you all. I am a tax consultant or enrolled agent. I decided not to take the CPA track because some parts of the CPA track, it was just completely boring to me. And I absolutely love taxes. Like I got that and I just ran with it. And I would, just I love finding different ways and different scenarios to help people save money. So I went with the enrolled agent track. I worked in corporate payroll, tax, and accounting for over 20 years before I decided to leave my job. My full-time job at one of the big banks, when was it? July 2019. And I'm also a licensed real estate broker. I've been a licensed real estate broker for 20 years. As a matter of fact, December 5th, it made 20 years. And when I was trying to decide who I wanted to serve from a tax perspective, it just made sense to do real estate. I have the years of experience. I've had rental property, so I know how it works on the investment side. I've owned my own property, and it just all tied together and made sense. So as I was thinking about and planning out this chapter, I decided to focus on real estate professionals in general to help them, structure their business and save taxes that way. So I have two boys. One is 26 and the other is 15. And that pretty much sums it up for me.
Well, we appreciate that. And every time I hear someone say 26, those 20-year-olds really turn my lights and my light switches on,
Yeah.
because most of them are just ready for whatever it is they're ready for. And I'm like, I'm your auntie. I'll be your auntie. I can get with their energy, even if I don't care where they're going. I want to roll with
Mhm.
them. So, um, thank you for agreeing to come on and talk to us about this, because one thing that is for sure, guys, is when you all have started these businesses that you have, more than likely you did not spend enough time figuring out the tax write-offs, the position you needed to be put in, which is why when you guys look at your blueprints that you have, you'll notice that you have some gaps. So most people who start in real estate business did not sit down with their accounting professional or their attorneys and go into detail about, I'm starting in January. What does my December need to look like for me to maximize this business and all of these perks of being my own boss and running a company? And so what we sometimes find out is later on, now we have to find the right person. Now we have to get this information. And so as we are starting to do this process again, where everybody's getting their bookkeeping done and that kind of thing, I thought it would be a great idea that we bring Karitsa out and just talk to you guys and answer any of your questions that we can answer during this time. Because the wealthy who understand business, I won't even say anymore. I'm gonna let Chris, because I live for the tax write-offs. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's like a game I played with my other business owner friends. It was like, okay, what else are we writing off this one? Did you see this tax write-off? We can get 50 up to
Mhm.
50,000 for this truck. If we do this and the 50,000 write-off, oh yeah. And so, Karitsa, what do you see as a huge mistake? Because I know your niche is the real estate agent, small business operation of that.
Mhm.
What do you see as the biggest mistake that agents are making?
Um, I think the biggest mistake that I've seen, I was just telling someone this morning that in real estate school, they'll teach you, real estate law, but once you start practicing, it's a whole different thing. And
Mm-hmm.
from a business and financial standpoint, I don't think that's touched at all. Like how you run your business, how you track your income, expenses, taxes, all of that. So when most real estate agents come to me for the first time, the biggest mistake that I've seen is first, like you say, trying to do it all on your own, not consulting. Like you got your license, you're starting a business, but you didn't consult with, an attorney, a tax accountant, or anything like that to make sure that you start off correctly. You may not be able to afford, bookkeeping services and ongoing consulting up front, but I think that initial consultation would be able to set you off on the right foot. So just not knowing and trying to, do everything yourself, especially like the bookkeeping side. I tell people all the time, you don't know what you don't know. And then a lot of times you don't find out until April 15th, or, when you file your taxes and you want to know why you got this large tax bill, or you spending, you know, hours and days going back and forth where I'm saying, well, did you do this? Did you have that? And the client says, oh, let me go dig that up. It's always, let me go dig that up and let me go put that together. I know I had this or that, but it's just all over the place. So I think the biggest thing that I've seen is just trying to do everything on your own and not knowing what you don't know.
Right, right. I think we all can probably say we've done that a few times.
Mhm.
I was fortunate. I would tell people, and I was just telling one of the ladies who just left here, that I was really fortunate when I got into the business and opened up my brokerage. my first hire was my bookkeeper
Mhm.
because I knew going out the gate I didn't want to keep up with all those receipts and all that stuff. Now, this was before all these tech tools that we have now and all this other
Right.
stuff. But I already knew keeping up with different checkbooks and escrow accounts and all this other stuff. Let me just go ahead and add that expense because
Right.
that's going to save me the headache. And if I'm really good at selling, then there's no need for me to get my hourly rate and what I'm doing over here to start trying to track receipts from five agents or me. And then I got to get receipts from my husband and all these other
Mhm.
places and they got to line up. I took a tax class, but like most people who take a tax class, you know some basics. But what I did know and learn from that, Karitsa, was that wasn't my role. That was, there
Mhm.
are people who, and when I met my bookkeeper, she loved it. Like she loved being
Yep.
in that space. She'd sit in a room and then she'd say, "Here's your thing. Here's your profit and loss statement." And I was like, whatever. I'm drinking coffee, talking mess, doing whatever else I want to do other than that. And I didn't have to wait until the end of the year to then start looking for receipts. I think that's a huge part of the headache and stress that folks
Right.
start, doing. And so I got smarter. And that's what this is all about, guys. So if you are raising your hand knowing that's you who does not have bookkeeping services, then this is your time to get unstuck and run a business more professionally and get your life back. Because Karitsa, do you have like guys, put your questions in here because if not, I'll just keep running my mouth. Because today, for whatever reason, I woke up on fire. I told you guys earlier if you were around, but I have contractors looking in my window as we speak, so I'm ready to get out there and pounce on them, and whatever. But so besides them not knowing what they don't know, how are they coming to you? So when someone are they calling you and saying, "I heard about an S corp. Should I do an LLC? Should I, because there's so
That's,
much
that,
information and people are getting all of this information of how do I set my business up? Do I set up an LLC? Do I set up myself as an S corp and pay myself back?" And when they start those questions to me, I tell them I'm not your accounting professional, bookkeeper, or CPA, so I really can't help them.
so one of the things it makes me, it gives me anxiety because I see it a lot in groups. Those are some of the most popular questions floating around social media, period. I see it on Instagram, I see it on Facebook, and you have non-tax professionals giving tax advice. And the one thing that I'll hop in a group in a minute and say one size does not fit all. It depends on where you are in your business, what your income and expenses look like. When S corp or something like that makes sense for one person, it may not make sense for you at the time. So I say, be selective about the advice that you take and just use it as like a tip to talk to a professional about. Your tax advisors are not, the next person, in the group or on your team that may be structured one way, because you may have 5 kids, a husband, and something else to where you got more deductions than they do, and they are doing what's best for their situation. So yes, that is a popular question, and I've seen tips on social media that says just set yourself up as an LLC and put yourself on payroll. And I've had people just put themselves on payroll like through QuickBooks. And I'm like, as a single member LLC or a sole proprietor, you can't just put yourself on payroll because the IRS, you're making me laugh.
I'm sorry.
But it
I'm
happens,
sorry.
but and it's all in good. It's all with good intentions, but it goes back to one of those. You don't know what you don't know, and when it sounds good, you want to try to do the right thing, but the right thing for one person may not be the right thing for you.
That's exactly right. And I'm only laughing because I didn't pay attention to the number of groups where people were having these conversations until
Mm-hmm.
one day it just popped up. Like I recently started really going into groups, and it popped up, and someone's like, I'm starting to pay myself. And I'm like, I'm not a tax professional, but I'm like, I know that ain't right there. But who am I to say, anything? But I'm like, that little thing right there, if because I went back to myself, and I'm like, a
Mhm.
single member LLC. Let me tell you guys, I have been through an audit with the IRS. So I've been through real estate audits with Kansas Real Estate Commission, going through one right now, Missouri Real Estate Commission, all these different audits. And the one thing that's common is I ain't no crap about what I thought I knew about these by the time the auditors came. So what saved me every time is that I had professionals, and I always tell you guys what, hire people that are better than you for that. I'm an investment person, so I know how to make money buying and selling real estate and depreciation. I can talk to you
Right.
do some of those things. Now, what new form came out that gets me 50,000 versus 40,000? That ain't my role. I can't do that. So I don't ever know how these people on social media become these gurus, and this is not what they do every day.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand it. So when you're saying that, I'm like, people really out there giving advice, and people really out there taking other people's advice who are not tax professionals.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it bugs me.
Right. Right.
Because every situation is so very different,
Mm-hmm.
down to, like, someone asked me the other day about having LLCs and do you have separate ones for separate properties, and I said, hold up, you got to talk to your tax professional here, because how I have mine set up is
Right.
based on how I have my trust set up. Do you have a trust? If you answered no to that, then we're not even talking about the same thing. And then, do you have
That's
two
it.
kids that are age 22 and 26 with this blood type, a husband at this age, a car that's this old, a house that's this? If you can't match me for everything, then I can't really give you
Right.
advice on this. I can say in general terms, we do this to protect this, but you
Right.
really have to have your tax professional working alongside of you. And guys, if you get nothing else, by the time you get off this call, y'all need to be finding you a tax professional that can get alongside of you. Because for example, if I was brand new and I was getting into the business and I called you, Karitsa, and I said, Karitsa, I want to ensure that I'm paying the least amount of taxes as possible for next year, so
Mm-hmm.
that when I start out in January, can you help me with getting a plan for that? And I don't know if, as a professional, you prefer me coming that way, or you prefer me saying, I'm 2 weeks before the deadline and here's all my stuff.
Um, yeah, so let me give you an example of that. So it was I have people that just get their license and say, I want to know what I need to do to get started off on the right foot. And we set up a consultation, and I pretty much spill my guts. I tell you everything that you need to know to get started and make sure that you are, starting off on the right foot. Well, I had somebody who filed an extension. Okay, so taxes were due April 15th. COVID delayed them to July 15th. Someone came to me October 13th, and it was a new client, October the 13th, and they had a drastic increase in their income, 1099, single member LLC. By the time I was done with their return and everything, the morning of October the 15th, they had a huge tax bill. They said, Karitsa, what can I do? Well, I looked at my watch. At this point, nothing, because Everything is historical. It's October 15th of 2020. We're reporting on everything that was done from January 1, 2019 to December 31st, 2019. So at that point, it's basically too late. So if he had come to me when he got those new contracts and stuff at the beginning of the year, we could have put a tax plan in place and took action to mitigate some of those tax liabilities. So that's what happens when you come in the beginning versus the end, that final hour, here's my stuff. I need my taxes filed versus, starting in the beginning. This is what's happening. And what a lot of people don't do is communicate with their tax accountant throughout the year. If you lose your job, if you get, if you sell $1 million home, whatever the case may be, those types of things have an impact on your income and your taxes, and you can plan for that.
Right. I think that's key. Karitsa, I see a couple of questions. Someone asks, do you are you available to are you able to assist people nationwide?
Yes, I can assist people in all 50 states. That's one thing about being an enrolled agent versus a CPA. A CPA is licensed to the state, and enrolled agent is issued by the IRS. It's the highest designation that you can receive through the IRS as it pertains to taxes, which allows you to service all 50 states because it is on the federal level.
Well, you just taught me something right there because I've never worked with an enrolled agent that
Mhm.
was their thing. Now I've got like I was laughing to my husband is that we don't always agree on the professionals who we have on our whole team.
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
have a CPA, he deals with them because
Mhm.
the CPA says I'm too aggressive. Because when
Mhm.
I call, I just, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh. And our other accountant and our accounting and bookkeeping folks who are over here, I've had worked with them for 16, 17 years. And so they're like on it and
Right.
we roll. And so I never thought to ask if any of them are enrolled agents. So please tell me more. I don't know about the rest of the group. We'll get to their questions in a second. But an enrolled agent, you are, well, of course, you're dealing directly with the IRS. So
Mhm.
if somebody brings you on to help them get set up and get everything together for their business, are they then having to get a CPA?
It just depends because pretty much an enrolled agent and a CPA, we can all do the same things. We can represent you before the IRS. I do IRS representation, for tax debt, tax planning, tax prep for, all types of tax returns. The real difference between the CPA and the enrolled agent, because we are primarily focused on taxes, like we're the tax experts.
Got it.
When we do the financial statements, it has to be from an income tax perspective and not from a financial perspective. So if you are looking to get your financial statements audited or something like that, and a CPA has to do that part.
Got it. Got it. And so that makes more sense because I'm thinking of some of the things. And guys, I only
Mhm.
like some things I learned the hard way was like you can't just go in and open up six bank accounts and put a bunch of money in six bank accounts. That will cause an
Right.
audit. But I didn't call my tax professional to ask them or my
Mhm.
CPA. I just went, y'all know me. I go big or go home. And I went big and they sent me right to the IRS office in an audit because they want to know why would you need six bank accounts that you
Mhm.
have money to put in six. I was like, because I was balling out of control with real estate. Here's all the proof. But the time it took to have to explain that, I could have
Yeah.
went about that in a better way if I had even asked my tax professional. I just didn't even ask. I just was going at 200 miles an hour. So my normal self. That's right. I don't know if you can see any of the questions there. If not, I'll read them. But and I think I can answer this one. Even though it's addressed to you, it's my husband and I file jointly. Should I consider filing separately or add him to my LLC and keep filing jointly? And so I'll let Karitsa answer it because I know how I would answer it, but I'm not the tax professional. which
Yeah,
I would
so
say you got to talk to the tax professional and let them see what's going on.
yeah, and this is one of those questions that I can't throw a general answer
Right.
out there and say yes or no. I will have to take a deep look into your finances. It would be irresponsible of me to give you advice, not knowing the details of your situation, because it just depends on which scenario suits you best. And I don't know what your scenario is, so I'm unable to answer that.
Right. I think that's kind of what I said. You actually have
Hmm.
to sit, which is why the same way, guys, when you're looking at, when you're working with investors and they're like, oh, what's my rate? Or does this flip make sense for my portfolio? How do I know that until I get the rest of your portfolio and I get, the property and I pull your credit and all these other things? I got to dig
Hmm.
deeper to give
Right.
you true advice. So here's a suggestion I would tell you guys right now. If you let's say, Maggie, you use the same question and you put that out there in a group or to a tax professional and they gave you an immediate answer, that's the one you don't want to work with. How
Right.
about that? Because there's no way that they
Listen.
should be able to truthfully answer that without having some more conversations about what's going on in the finances. So there's also the good thing, guys, of knowing some questions to ask to get you away from the wrong
Hmm.
people.
Yep, that is so true. It's
Somebody said,
all in the
this
internet.
is Rosia said, that's me 2 weeks before the end of the year, and I don't know if I've done everything I need to pay less taxes. Oh, well, we won't do that next year now, will we? Because at this point, what can she do?
Um, there are some things that you can do before December 31st, and like things like contributing to a self-employment retirement plan. Those are some things that you can do before December 31st. If you have any expenses, like one of the things I sent out, I haven't sent that out to my email list or posted it yet. But one of the things I sent out last year, some of those real estate fees, association dues, and stuff like that, pay them before the end of this month. If you need more tax deduction, pay those in December instead of waiting until the first week of January, because you can deduct them the year that you pay them
Mhm.
in. So if you need a new laptop, you was considering buying a new laptop for the business, or something like that, think of those expenses that you can accelerate before the end of the year, so that you can have those expenses to reduce your tax liability this year instead of waiting till next year. So that's just one of the things that you can do before these last few weeks of the year.
Get those Teach at the Beach tickets before the
That
end of the year. They're
is
gonna go up in price anyway. I'm thinking of some of the other things I need to go buy because you're right. And normally I've already purchased everything I needed to, like, before that. Like, normally that Black Friday is when I go berserk,
yeah.
but it's normally just buying all of the business stuff that I know I'm gonna need for the next year.
Hmm.
Because we still do a lot of write-offs for our travel, because of the properties and stuff, of us maintaining in several states. There's another question there that says, "How about a vehicle?"
That's a tricky question because it depends on what the vehicle is going to be used for, and you have to look, can your business afford a vehicle? I've gotten all kinds of questions around, vehicles and stuff, where, people trying to maximize the deduction of the vehicle, but it has to be done properly. An example was someone paid cash for a vehicle out of their personal account, and they said, well, I want to put the title in the business name, and I want to deduct it. And my question is, where's the documentation saying that it's for the business and it was paid for, by the business in the business name? Like, when you are in an audit, they want to see that paper trail. They want to see that documentation. Like, it has to make sense. Now, are there ways to do that? But can your business, and this was a brand new business, so they didn't have the funds, to cover a whole vehicle for cash. So things like that will send a red flag to the IRS because clearly they see that you're trying to create a loss. It has to make sense for your business, and it's gonna determine. I mean, it's gonna make a difference whether it's your personal vehicle that you're just using for business versus a vehicle that you're purchasing for the business in the business name, because the deductions can differ depending on how you purchase it and the use for the vehicle. So again, that's one of those, you have to strategically plan and speak to a tax professional based on your current situation. So, general question, a vehicle is a great tax deduction, but how are you going to do it, and is it going to fit your situation?
Right. And I know, guys, we get all excited when we see other people posting
Mm-hmm.
that they did mileage and they wrote off all this mileage for all these, they rode 40,000 miles. So they did all of these write offs and all this other kind of stuff. And we don't really know all of the details behind the vehicle, how it's titled, any of those kind of things. If it's owned by this group or owned by the company, is it a leased vehicle,
Right,
that, and how is that lease different? Because a
right.
lease vehicle shows differently on your taxes than a finance vehicle, and all of those other things, guys. It's so it's just like if you sell real estate and a person comes to you and says they want you to this is your profession, and then they start telling you that they got stuff off of Zillow, and this is why we should write this or list this price for this house is because they saw it on Zillow. It's the same thing in this tax game.
Yes, that is a
Who's the
great example.
professional here? Are you gonna listen to me, the real estate professional, or are you gonna listen to a tax professional who
Yep.
gets paid to do this? Like, so if I was a small business, and I was getting going, whether it's a nonprofit, for profit, whatever it was, my first investment, and you guys will see that on that blueprint, says what? An accountant,
And then
financial professional, and an attorney. People don't want to spend the money that ultimately saves them money and makes them money.
So yeah, that's the key thing, because a lot of times people say, "Well, I can't afford a bookkeeper or I can't afford this," but by the end of the year, 2 years later, "But Carissa, I've been doing this wrong all this time, and now I need to clean up." Now the cleanup is multiplied what the initial, monthly bookkeeping fee was going to be, and you miss some opportunities to save taxes throughout the year by having your bookkeeping set up and someone with eyes on your finances, because like Tameka said, you want to go make the money. You want to make sure that the money is coming in, and you want somebody who can help you strategically manage those finances so that you don't find yourself bankrupt or overpaying the IRS, because they're gonna find a way to get theirs. They
Right.
really are,
That's the
especially.
worst. That's the worst feeling is overpaying the IRS. Do y'all hear me? I'm looking this camera. That's the worst thing is to overpay the IRS. Like,
Yeah,
if I gotta pay $200 so that I don't pay the IRS 2,000,
that's right.
I'm gonna pay the $200. Like, come on, that's just what it is. Because, like you said, that's the IRS's job is to get your money. So if you don't
Mhm.
have anybody on your team that's teaching you and helping you keep more of your money, then
Right,
you are going to you can't beat the house. So when you go to the casino and you play in the casino, you can't beat the house. Just
right,
know you go in there for fun. So if you're operating a business and you don't have tax professionals and professionals around you helping you keep your money, know that you can't beat the house. The
right.
IRS, that's their
That's
job.
hard. I'll go win.
The house gonna win.
And like you say, it's an investment. It starts with the mindset. A lot of people say, "I can't afford this," or this is an expense. It's not an expense.
That's
It
that
is an
scarcity mindset.
investment.
That's
Yeah,
that scarcity mindset. We're not doing here. It's not about what we
yes.
can't afford.
Right. It is an investment into your business. And honestly, that's your first tax deduction. The expenses that you pay to attorneys and accountants and things like that, those are tax deductible. So you are paying somebody, which is a tax deduction, to help you find more tax deductions. So it's really a win-win when you think about it.
Right. And I always tell folks, what y'all think the wealthy do?
Yep.
Y'all think they in there doing their own taxes? Heck no. They got teams of accountants and attorneys that they pay
Yeah.
so that they keep more of their money. That's what that's what they do. So you guys have got to look at this entrepreneurship, small business thing as you can't let the house keep winning. And you guys
Mhm.
know all about the house winning if you were working a 9 to 5,
Right.
right? Because the house took their money before you even got your check.
Yep.
The house is like, give us that 30% and you just keep working because
Mhm.
we'll just keep taking. And so one year, guys, I looked at annual income here, annual income that I brought in from a business, and then I forget somebody's annual income from a job. They were paying 30%. I think my total bill for that year was like 10%. And I'm like, wow, I'm paying 10%. And I was actually made a little more to their 30% that was just taken right out.
Mhm.
I'm like, for the amount of the investment and my professional team, it was worth it.
Yeah.
So hopefully, guys, this makes sense to you guys. I'll post this last question up here. And then, like always, guys, we try to keep this around 30 to 45 minutes so folks can get back to what they're doing and I can get back to what I'm doing. But Keo has a question here that says, are there any tax advantages with using a cash basis versus an accrual basis?
There are no specific like clear cut tax advantages. I think it depends on like your business and how your business is run, because with the accrual basis and with cash basis, you don't count the revenue or the expense until it actually happens. But with accrual, so say like you send out an invoice, you got the revenue booked, somebody owes you money, so you can count that money because you're on the accrual basis. You can count that as revenue, and you will actually pay taxes on that revenue in that year that is earned, even though it may not be paid until the following year. That's the difference in the cash and the accrual basis. So the cash basis is as everything happens, and the accrual basis is when it's earned or when it's due, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Well, guys, we're at our time. Um, I still got folks out there. So we're at our time. I do want to thank Karitsa for coming on and talking
Thank you
to
all.
our Be Niche group and our Win group who are here joining us. One Maggie's asking, how do we reach Karitsa? And what we'll do is we'll make sure that we put her contact information in there. And guys, if you are in the Win group, she's in there.
Yep.
She's just been quietly hanging out. And if this is more of the kind of information that some of you guys want, and I already know you need, you guys have to still speak up and say, "Hey, we want to hear more about this or more about that," because y'all know I get on my little jet and I'm all over, moving all over, and so many of you guys are coming from different spaces. So some of you are tax professionals yourselves. Like I know Latoya here is a tax professional. And so I don't know what she may need or somebody else may want. She may not need anything, but some of you may need this. So be, clear about saying, hey, can we hear from this person or help us find people who we know are good quality people, because we also know there are a lot of crooks out there. And so I'm always going to be real protective of who I allow in here to advertise, to talk, or any of that kind of stuff. Notice that we don't do any commercials. We don't, none of that kind of stuff. This is from an education only
Only.
standpoint. Okay, this is just for education. If you want more info, you have to speak to that professional yourself. Okay, so I don't know, folks ringing a bell and all kind of stuff. So Karitsa, again, I thank you. When we finish
Thank
here, she'll
you.
put her information there, and we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good
Thank
one.
you. I enjoyed you all.